Pull that down there. Well, aloha, mahalo, and welcome to this tropical edition here. If you can't tell, we've added some nice shrubbery around here, make it a little more green. But again, it's us here on the sales floor, Medicare Gurus. Today, Brandon's with us. We have Brad, again, Jacob Crotty, and Mr. Stephen Grip here.
It's just who knows who will come.
And yeah,
right.
Who knows who's going to show up. It's just our little daily chit chat, just seeing if we can pull anything out, any type of good information, good logic, good advice, really. So how's it been today?
Well, just, I was just telling these guys, I love having relationships with clients, but it can go too far sometimes because the lady, she got a statement that said $320 out of her bank account. She's calling me to wonder what that is. Like, okay, Janet, your policy is $170.40. That's the only bill you should be getting from us. And she said, well, I took notes from what we talked about, and I take really good notes. I had that 320 written down on that page. And I know we talked about it. I'm like, Janet, I'm looking at everything. There's nothing that says 320, and you call the bank. But again,
It was from someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Some other?
I have no idea what it was, but that's how close we can get with our clients, and I don't mind, if they call me, it's always an opportunity to help out and everything and talk and find out what's going on in their life. That's actually where we want to be, but it can go too far sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's nice, develop that friendship.
I do that sometimes with people I don't even know. A lady called in. She called in for a wrong number, which those are always the really fun ones. If you can get a wrong number and turn it into a sale, that's the best one. So I was like, I was itching. She was like, "What's this $99 charge in my checking account?" And I go, "Well, we'll find out. Let's see here." I go, "What's it for?" She was like, "I signed up for something to get like my Trulicity and this other insulin that I'm taking here." I go, "Okay, we'll figure it out." And it turns out it was some type of, I guess, patient assistance program that she was actually paying for, but I had no idea what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one to where I said, "Well, here's what I want you to do. Call the bank. If the bank can't tell you what it is, call me back. You've got my correct number here." I guess it was one of the old landlines from a long time ago. But yeah, soon enough, five minutes later, she called back, and it was another question. She wasn't on Medicare. She was in her 40s too. But I was like, it was still just nice to talk to somebody and just be able to just help them out a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't better her situation, but I could say, well, I can take a look here. I know I didn't charge you. I don't have your $90. I can't even charge you anything. She goes, well, it was this phone number. And I go, well, there's a lot of phone numbers. We need to find you the right one. But it was just a nice little 5-10-minute conversation where you get a little bit of extra karma, get that little bit of luck there, but you're just being a good human.
It can lead to a sale. I've had those where I call a wrong number and they sound a little elderly. And we start talking about, hey, you on Medicare, and you go into it. Next thing you know, I got a double, and it's just, you can't prejudge anything as business. I mean, you can't prejudge the lead. You can't prejudge the phone call. There's always
you got a human being, try to help them, right?
You got a human being on the other end. There's something there. I mean, whether you could sell them or not, creating a relationship, you got any friends that need help with this, or, how's your family doing? I mean, it can go on and on.
I just look at the other side from doing like search engine marketing and things like that. If you bid on one wrong, you've seen it, like it comes in, you bid on one wrong keyword and make the mistake because no one else bids on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's real cheap. And so you get all the clicks on that. And it's like, some kind of dental thing or some kind of benefit, some obscure benefit off on the side.
Yeah.
You've seen it, like we get like 50 calls in one day on this one little thing. And it's like, and then no one tells me for a couple days and like everyone's upset. And then I go back and like that. And then I go through the AdWords and uh-oh. Yep. We somehow pulled that little keyword out.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not good to do what you're talking about when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What you do is you call and say, hey, what are y'all bidding on? Because at that point, I mean, you could get millions of calls or hundreds of thousands of calls, like if you wanted to just help people with obscure things. So there has to be that delineation in there of like, mostly this is going to lead to a sale if I do this.
Right. Yeah. And going back to what we're talking about it, and I think a lot of I like to make on these videos references to new agents, because a lot of people that are watching this, I think, are going to be new agents trying to figure out how experienced agents like us do well. And this is going back. I had a conversation with Jacob earlier. Got a lady on the phone. All she told me right away. She's a super nice lady, but she's like, "Oh, my husband is retiring. We're going to go on the group plan." And every time these new agents are like, "Okay, well, and lets them go. Just lets them go." Because they assume group plan, you're taken care of, everything is good. And then a lot of times coaching comes in and tries to find ways to finagle having a conversation with how much, and all we really need to do, and it's what I've been doing every time when someone says that, it says, congratulate them on retiring, what did your husband do, and have these normal conversations. And then when you have that conversation, you ask them, have you ever evaluated how much that's going to cost? I ask that question every time, and they never do. They just assume that the group coverage is going to cover them. And they're like, what do you mean or talk about it? It's like, well, have you seen how much that's going to cost when your husband retires and you get on his group plan? We never talked about that. And when you get that conversation, that lady is like, I want to know. I want to know how much it costs. It's like, well, that's what we do here. So she literally sent her husband's documents of how much it's going to cost. Of everything, and she wants somebody to look at that plan because she trusts me, not because I'm trying to sell her something, but I'm trying to help her evaluate it. But
you asked the right question.
Yeah.
You asked the right question, and like that right question opened her up to this world of, oh, there's something I don't know.
Right.
And the person who knew to ask that question must know.
Right.
That's a subconscious assumption that they'll automatically have.
Yeah.
Since you knew to ask that question, you must know the thing I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's instant trust just because you hit that perfect question.
Yep. And then Jacob and I we already looked a little bit at it. I mean, she's already paying a lot more.
It's going to be something. And it's always one for situations like that, too. I like the firsthand experience here. So what I'll reference my aunt, who in January, she started her Medicare. Her husband passed away some years ago, but she was on his pension, and with the teachers educator, I forget what it's called teachers pension here in Texas. And so she was starting January 1st. She got the Blue Cross packet. It's $110 a month, 7,000 out of network. And this is the type of lady, they've heard me tell this story on the phone a lot. You probably haven't heard me tell it. She's the type of lady, she's a hypochondriac, number one, but all her prescriptions, she doesn't use a pill box. She doesn't use her bottles. She dumps them in a Ziploc bag and just picks stuff out that she wants to take. That type of lady. So in my head here, and this is what I told Michelle too, because it's okay, type of person. But I told her, look, I don't want to, because I was going to help her with Medicare. I want to put her on something where she doesn't have to call me and ask me questions, because that's exactly what she's going to do. She maybe goes to 11, 15 different doctors. Well, she'll go once. She doesn't like them. She'll go somebody else. Doesn't care. Heck, the first 3 months, she didn't even show her Medicare card when she was going to the doctor. And so finally, when I went over to her house a few months ago, I had to be like, look, this is your Philadelphia card. This is your Medicare card. This is your drug card. Keep these on you. Right. Make copies. Yeah. But I use that example for people that are on the group coverage because she thought she was fine. And her dad, too, who's 89, he was like, well, Blue Cross is a good company. Well, they're a good company. It's not a good plan, though. Yeah. That's where people don't. There's no disconnect between the two, because people just think, oh, it's Blue Cross, it's a great company, or oh, it's Cigna, oh, it's Mutual. Yeah, it might be that company, but it might not be the best plan for you.
So you really dissect why they think that, it's just because they've heard of them.
It's because you know the name. That's why.
It's brand loyalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like Band-Aid. Band-Aid is a company name. It's not the actual name. It's an adhesive bandage is what it is. But everybody says Band-Aid, just like everybody says Kleenex, Q-tips. Yeah.
By the way, as far as Q-tips are concerned, I have tried 3 times in my life to get away from Q-tips, and they always are terrible. Like I tried to get the generic, and then I tried to get some organic thing made out of bamboo with extra cotton, organic cotton, and like the thing broke, like the cotton like
No
broke off,
way.
and then the thing slips in your ear a little more, and then the
Oh,
other ones are
man.
little, and then you go back to Q-tip, like this is perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I got-
I don't know, just
I got one.
don't
To,
stick with something that's broke.
Right. Exactly.
I got one to top it here. I saw this driving in. I guess there's a new trailer over here on Baghdad, and it got me. It said organic shaved ice, and I
Yeah.
and I'm driving, and I just read it real quick,
Yeah.
and it's 2 minutes down the road from here.
So what
And
do
then
you use,
it-
lake water?
It didn't hit me. It didn't hit me till I got to the parking lot, and I'm like, how is hey, shaved ice organic? I'm sure it's the juice or whatever they use to flavor it. I'm
Oh
just like,
yeah.
Juice.
I'm just like that's so.
Yeah, I mean, you can go out and
Mhm.
puddle and grab some water and freeze it.
Yeah, just get a knife, shave it off. That's what it is.
Totally organic.
Mhm.
Lots of organic material.
You know, I hear this stuff all the time, and everybody affiliates their coverage with how much they're paying per month.
Mhm.
I say, everybody's concerned about that. It's important, but you have to look at the coverage. Is it going to change every year? Is it going to be different next year? And typically with group plans, it's less coverage for more money every year.
Mhm.
And there are always stipulations in there. What's your network? You have to see certain doctors. Most people tell me that they don't like to have their doctors or their insurance company dictate what doctor they can see. Would you be one of those people?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different ways to deal with that. And a lot of these things, surprisingly, are online, like the teachers programs. You can look
Yep,
it up and
that's-
see what
that's
they
how I
are. A
pulled it.
lot of them are group advantage plans, really.
Mhm.
They're moving towards that. And it can be a little bit tough because that's a comfort zone for people.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. Because when I talk to these people, especially in the type of situation that they're in right now, moving from group to transition to group, their logic is they're talking to somebody who is non-Medicare affiliated. They're in an HRA or they're just with Aon, and their job is to make the transition easy, not to talk about the plan or the complexities that could arise later down the road. They're just like, it's going to be the same thing you have right now, and they're like, oh, that's so great. I'm so happy for this easy transition.
Exactly. They made it easy to buy. And
You made
that's
it
off
easy
their
to
plate.
move,
They don't
for
have to
me
worry
to
about it.
conceptualize it.
Right.
I don't have to change anything. And then we come along and we have to nuance the conversation that is saying it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not complicated, but it's more than what you just went through.
Mhm.
Because have you ever thought A, B, and C? Have you ever thought about what happens when this happens? Have you ever thought about, changing doctors? And when you start to open up those conversations, they're like, oh my goodness, I've never thought about this. I thought that it was just this, and this. It's like, look, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I'm just trying to help you understand, I work for you. I don't work for a company. I work with hundreds and hundreds of people just like you that have these same questions. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to dissuade you from anything. I'm just trying to help you understand that I know exactly what's going to happen in your situation. And I want to make sure that whatever happens in your life, that you don't have to worry about stuff like this. And that's what I like about my job the most, is that those light bulbs.
So you're taking the hard route, but that's opportunity, because it's really easy to say, okay, it's real simple. It's like no friction, let's be transactional. Let's get this done.
Right.
And it doesn't, and big call centers and big money likes that, because then you can put a monkey in the seat and it's real simple, right?
Right.
And you don't have to really train professional agents who want to take care of people for a long time
Right.
and all that. You just bodies in seats, keep a simple transaction, and make it go. What you're talking about is taking someone in their mind mentally and changing the way that they think. Which, by the way, when you do that, that's how you make the sale. They'll be endeared to you on a lot higher level.
Yeah.
And then their bar for buying gets raised. So the next guy comes up, they're like, they don't feel it, right? But that's the challenge, is how do I take someone from saying, I pay this much a month and I paid this much at my doctor, which is about as far as people see it as, to showing them, here's all the possibility of all that can happen for you. And if it was just you going to your doctor once or twice a year, you wouldn't take out insurance at all. Now,
Right.
would you? You would just pay the fee and all that. Why you take it out is because here's this world of possibility that can happen. And you're actually making future healthcare decisions now.
Yeah.
Even though you don't know what those decisions are, but you're putting yourself in the position to be able to do that now and not have to worry about the cost involved. And taking them into that theoretical rather than matching what they know, it's very hard to do. It's hard to learn how to do that, but it is the path to a long-term career.
Well, my philosophy, just from a personal sales standpoint, is very Machiavellian. Like, do you want to be liked or do you want to be feared? And a lot of agents, hey, we're doing a dojo.
Machiavellian, let's go.
Yeah, but it's like the concept is, do you want to be liked or do you want to be feared? And a lot of agents, especially in those call centers, they tell them, get him to be your best friend. Like, I like this guy. I like this, but I don't take that route. I want to be feared because it's like I'm exposing you to things that you never thought of. It's like, I don't like that thought. I don't like the fear of having a heart attack or my husband having a heart attack and not knowing what will happen with our bills. I want to expose that fear, but out of that fear, I'm going to mitigate that fear. I'm going to say, we got to talk about this fear. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with you yelling at me about that's not going to happen, or that's okay, because my journey is for you to mitigate that fear. And then once we mitigate that fear,
ever yelled at you about talking about those things?
Absolutely. I mean, not yelling, but it's like
they get upset.
Well, because they're trying to wrap their brain around something they never thought of before. They're afraid.
The group plan uses fear as well. They're going to say, you don't take this, you can never get it back.
Right.
And it's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
He's going to try to talk me into something I won't be able to go back.
Exactly.
Which is BS, because I've had people in my own family where they canceled and they're calling back begging to come back. Oh, you can get that. We changed things. You can get
Exactly.
that plan.
Exactly.
So they use that fear factor out there.
Yeah.
I think with it, and this is actually something I had to teach Christine here this morning, is you don't necessarily want to follow a narrative, but you need something to focus on in that situation. Because the lady we were talking to is actually for a husband that's turning 65, and he is a co-owner of a business with his brother who's also turning 65 too here soon. And so it was like a dual thing, but she was like, I've done a little bit of research. I don't know if it's like supplemental or advantage plans, but we live out in the middle of nowhere, and the nearest doctor is like 30 miles away from us. And she just kept going on and on and on. And I was telling Christine, at that point, because right now she has to go get the husband when he gets off of work and then do a big group call. But I go, now, when you let them go off on tangents like that, not necessarily a tangent, but just doing too much information at once, that lady's lost. She has no direction right now. I said her, you should have keened in with those selector questions and say, okay, just, stuck, because she was talking pretty quick too. Just stop her and say, hey, look, before we leave, because we can't really, I don't want to go into detail with your husband's not here, so he's going to have the plan. You're going to have it eventually too, so I want you to listen. But for right now, he's not here. So we have to do what we can do. So what I would have done is, look, we at least need to know what we need to look at by the time that your husband get on the phone. So does he have any doctors that he goes to right now, or any doctors that he likes? What's the nearest doctor in the area? Is it 30 miles? Is it 50 miles? Is it 2 blocks? What's the situation? Go through those selector questions, because then by the end of it, you can say, look, so it doesn't look like for your situation that advantage plan is going to be beneficial. It's going to be the supplemental plan. Now, which supplemental plan, I might not know yet. We still have to do a little bit of discovery with your husband. But for at least now, we know you don't need this, you need this.
Yeah.
So now when she gets on the phone and call again and say, we're going to talk about supplemental plans.
What you're talking about is taking her out of her world of uncertainty and chaos and bring her down into your world of control and specificity.
Yep.
Like, that's, that I learned early in my sales career. Like, I several times got sucked into the question and answer session. Y'all been in that? Like, where you go in there and they have their list of questions ready for you.
Yeah.
And they, okay, here you go. Like, okay, so and you knock that one out of the park. And you knock all their questions out of the park. And like, okay, well, let's think about it. Because you haven't created a buying environment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You haven't bought that in, and I played their game.
You're just a Google search at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was
Yeah.
before Google.
Yeah.
Old man stuff.
Right.
Again. But yeah, I mean, so that's when I learned. Look, my question coming out of that is, how do I create the buying atmosphere? How do I create that atmosphere that's going to logically lead to a decision being made, and all of that? And so that's what you're talking about. If you're in their world, God, and they're leading. It's like the dog leading the human, right? The puppy.
They're wagging the dog.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it never goes anywhere, and
Yeah.
you've lost. And so I mean, that's exactly the way you're talking about using the selector questions, which is an innovation Frank's pretty much made into our system, which was, it just brings it down to very much specificity, but they have control over it, but you're driving the ship.
Yeah. Well, there's a foundation with the selector questions, because as soon as they start to deviate, as soon as they start to get paranoid, or as soon as they start to get to their habitual ways of all these worries and concerns, you have that bedrock and say, remember when I asked those questions and you said that you didn't want this? That paranoia that you're creating is unnecessary, because you don't want that. This will have that go away.
I think
so great.
One of the lines I like to use for the supplemental ones is, because if you get somebody who just doesn't know Medicare, I had a lady that she was just T65 that I helped. She was the head of HR for like a 2,000 employee company. She was like, I don't know how to apply for this.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just relax. I'll grab your hand. We got this.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, you're the HR lady.
Don't screw that one up.
Yeah, that's a referral gold mine. Mhm.
That's stay there.
Yeah.
Mhm. But
This call's on recording, so
for her, it was really with those questions. They're making the decision on their own terms. And what I like to say within there, now you bring up the big companies, the call centers, the commercials, everything like that, and go, a lot of people don't know what a supplement is when they first look at Medicare, because they're not advertised. And I tell her, I go, look, they're not advertised because they work too well. If they were, it's a whole other ballgame than what you see advertised. And usually if somebody's advertising something, they're trying to push it down your throat. They're not trying to do what's best for you. That's why you see ads for the Super Bowl cost so much. Why? Because they want the views to purchase this specific product that they have to drive their revenue, drive their numbers, get their boats paid off, get their cars paid off. Okay. They don't need to do that, because nobody can offer a different plan. I used to joke too. I go, look, I could start karate Medicare in my garage. I can offer a G plan. If my G plan is $5, I'm not going to be in business very long, but legally it's got to be the same as your $200 plan. That's why there's not a lot of marketing for these. So even you get people that are in charge of benefits for thousands of other individuals throughout their time, 40 years at a company, they don't even know what's available.
To piggyback off of that, you were there when I was talking to a Medicare supplement agent.
Oh, yeah.
Selling, because she was a broker, but she only did, I think, Aetna.
She had, it's like Aetna, I think, United.
That's it. But she did not know the gamut of how Medicare supplements work. So like when you hear these titles and they're like, oh yeah, I know, and it's like when you have these conversations with them, you ask the right selector questions and you get into their, understanding of what they want, they're on their heels. They're like, I've never thought about that, and it's so crazy how, and everyone was coming like, was that lady a Medicare supplement agent? I'm like, yeah, she was, but she didn't really have an idea what she was doing,
At least not a good one.
Right.
Well, with med stuff, we used to always get all the stuff about, oh, well, if my doctor had this, I'm going to call my doctor and ask about it. It's like a slap in your face.
Yeah.
It's like, like I'm the professional insurance agent. He's the doctor, but let me tell you what he doesn't know about it. This is,
Oh, yeah.
He of course has to take it, but if you call him and ask him, he's going to look on his PPO list for people under 65, because that's all his people in the office will know. What he doesn't know, that there's automatic claims filing through Medicare, and that that if he accepts Medicare at all, that will come through and it'll automatically be filed and he'll automatically get paid if he doesn't even touch it or do anything. Now, let's get your doctor on the phone and see if he understands that. If you want to do that.
Guaranteed you, they don't get into the medical profession to understand billing.
Right.
He brings on a staff to take care of that.
And so, yeah, but I mean, I have doctors call me all the time asking me, and I help doctors' offices all the time with these things. So, but new agents out there will often get intimidated because doctors, they're a doctor, they're something special. Well, they're special for what they do, but you're special for what you do.
Yep.
And don't let someone say that a doctor is more important about insurance than the insurance agent. And that's something like new agents really need to understand.
So all my doctor clients were on a first name basis.
Yeah.
They call me Brad, I call them Joe. And I had one this morning, and doctors do carry a lot of weight. This client of mine, I love her, name's Jean, old lady. She's got some issues. And, she had COVID, now she's got fatigue. And the doctor said, we have to go to this hospital. She's like, Brad, I don't want to go to that hospital. I hate that hospital. They treat me like a number. I said, Jean, you know this. You don't have to go there. You can go to Mayo Clinic.
I can just see your face.
You can go anywhere you want. Don't go there. Yeah. You go where she says, I want to go to this hospital. I said, you can go to that hospital.
Oh, Brad, that's Todd. Gene.
I
can hear your voice. Gene, we've talked about this, Gene. Like a dad.
I'd still be on the phone with her. You got to kind of, I got a meeting to go to. But I mean, that happens.
Of course.
People
That's
forget.
why they call you.
They call all the time. Is this going to be covered? Yeah. If I do this, is this going to be covered? That going to be covered? Yes.
I got to just say one thing. My dad used to do this. So people would give the resistance and all that like that. And then he would use that when he would go through what we call the inoculation phase, where you show them all the things that are going to happen once they change their policy and all that.
Right.
Before they have a chance to say yes or no. He's going through that, and he talked about the 30-day free look. He goes, and then you're going to get your policy in the mail before it's effective. And that policy, you're going to get the actual policy. You can take it to your doctor's office and look at it. You can take it to your lawyer or your brother, like his little old lady. Yeah. And he would, like, if they were giving him stuff like that, he'd say, you can take it to your lawyer. And they're, oh, okay. And then, of course, that would, like, destroy the resistance, basically. But he would literally just look him in the eye and say, you can take it to your doctor, you can take it to your lawyer, and if they don't like it, then they can just call me and it will be a refund, 30 days.
I think I had
a way to flip it on them a little bit more, right?
I had one that was like that kind of like Brad's too, where you're like, Gene, this was me and Penny were helping this lady, and this poor gal, she got put on a Advantage plan with her Medicaid that was an HMO and didn't have any of her doctors in network. And so luckily she wasn't going too much, but when she went, she was like, I had to pay like $200, and that ate up, a third of my monthly check. She's like, I couldn't get groceries for a week, things like that are happening. And we found her a plan that had her doctors in network. The Medicaid is going to pay for everything there. It had some nice benefits to it. And she was still just all over the place, just going crazy. And I finally had to, on the phone, I think Penny started crying because she was laughing so hard. I went, I'll use Jean as her name too. I said, Jean, stop using your brain because you're confusing yourself. And she immediately goes, okay, I'll stop. And I go, you need to listen to me right now. This is what you're going to do. We're going to sign you up with this plan that has your doctors in network so you can get your groceries. So you don't have to pay. And she goes, okay, well, and I go, no, stop thinking.
Yeah.
Because you're going to think yourself out of this, and you desperately need this in the situation you're in. And she goes, okay. At that point, we talked with her long enough where you can say something like that, where it's like, look, you're confusing yourself here. The only enemy that you have, it's not me, it's not the plan, it's not the company, it's yourself.
Because you're profoundly different than what most people think sales is.
Right?
Yeah.
Profoundly.
It takes people forever. It takes new salesmen, and unfortunately, some of them fall off. It takes them a very long time, if ever, for them to discover that.
Why didn't you convince them about use some words and some sneaky ways and twist it and do all that to convince her rationally that it was better to do what you're talking about than her stupid thing?
To manipulate it through.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
Isn't that what sales is?
it's
Undermining, right?
Creative persuasion.
Creative undermining.
You
Yeah.
demonstrated, a creative boldness that was, a decent boldness where you were assertive, but it basically told her the truth, without insulting her, and it's like, well,
The ability to call out the actual truth of the moment. And that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You're in your own way here. You need to stop. I love you. You need to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's actually what was happening. You just told me all these problems. I'm fixing them. Now you're in your own way. You're overthinking it. Stop. You had to obviously have the rapport,
Of course.
and you had the energy and the spirit behind it because you cared about her and you wanted to solve her problem because of who you are.
Right.
And it wasn't just about making the sale, manipulating her.
Mhm.
And so when you are that sincere, you can get away with telling them, look, be quiet, shut up, do what I say.
Mhm.
You're in your own way. And she goes, I am in my own way.
Yeah, and then after that, there was like a 45-hour cool down too,
45 hours.
or 45 minutes to an hour cool down after we already got the
Okay, I
application
go
done.
on
too.
record.
Yeah.
I've always said spend as much time as you need with the client. No, 45-hour cool downs are too much.
Deal.
Took 2 weeks for that one
I am
deal.
on the record. There is a limit to how long you can stay on the phone with the client.
But it just goes back to it. It's kind of one that I wrote down here just as like a quick note because I noticed some people doing it today. There's a battle in your head that goes on every single time you talk to somebody. It's, are you listening or are you talking? Is really what it is. Because people, they get so scared and they go, if I don't say something, they're going to hang up on me. I just have to keep talking. Just keep talking, keep talking. And what happens, I heard it today where you're saying, this is what we're here for. This is what I do. This is why I do what I do. What our company does. This is how Medicare works, all of this. And at the very end, he goes, okay, what plan do you have? No answer. Yeah. Okay, what plan do you have? And they go, oh, I didn't even know you asked me a question.
Mhm.
Because you're just running everything together.
Mhm.
And so like in that situation, she's talking to herself. She just keeps talking and talking and talking. And it's kind of like the opposite of what we need to do. She needs to do where she's talking to it. Stop. You need to listen now. Now is your turn to listen. It's my turn to talk. But that's a everyday struggle with every conversation. And that's what really turns you from good to great is when you know when you need to talk and you know when you need to shut up.
Yeah, and you need to know what concerns them because what'll happen is that you'll be talking, they'll be thinking about something else in their mind and they're not even listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not on the topic that is their concern, and that's hard to find, they're hot, what they used to call hot button.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever concerns them, your response to that, they'll listen to. But if you're going to say something off the wall that features and benefits they don't care about, they're thinking about what their grandkids are doing tomorrow or whatever. I mean, there's no retention there whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to constantly re-engage them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You almost want to say, well, what did I just say?
I think
the point of having them get a pen and paper out and have that structured presentation where I need you to write this down, write this down, force it not to happen from the beginning. I mean, that was our game changer when we learned to go from face to face to over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And we developed that. And then that's like everything clicked at that point. I need you to get a pen and paper out. Okay, we're going to go over some things, write this down. And that just, because you got I always screw this up. You got the auditory, you got the visual, and the kinesthetic. Yeah, the kinesthetic. So you're writing, you're seeing, and you're hearing. The whole body's in harmony when they're going and they're connected with you the whole way.
Yeah.
And that's really the equivalent of looking people in the eye over the phone is having them fully engaged is what it is. So the more you can do that, the less they have the ability to go off because they're listening and hearing. And then, we know some people are primarily auditory, some people are primarily visual, some kinesthetic, and so you're hitting every type with that one one thing, but everyone, when they're using all three, is fully engaged.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to people, you know, they'll say, well, I hear you. Well, they're auditory.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're saying. They're visual. You know, they want to see things. You know, and there's spatial people, I mean, they're very feeling.
That's profound what you're talking about. I didn't realize that till a couple of years ago. You can hear in their language.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, or I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a personality
Or
type,
I don't-
and it's very consistent.
Or-
with
I
a
don't
single
feel
person.
right.
I feel you.
know,
Yep.
that-
Yeah.
That's
you
awesome.
know, you need to get into their emotions, you know. Yeah, there was a book, you know, Carrie L. Johnson, this goes back a long time, but he nailed it big time. And that just comes down to listening to the client
Mm-hmm.
and their language. You can sort of figure out, because if they're auditory and you're talking in visual terms, it just doesn't click. You know, they don't really pay attention, you know, and it makes a big difference. But
That's some fine tuning stuff. It's really profound because once you
Yeah.
get it and you can train your habits to get it, like the first day you're in sales, you're not going to learn that. If you try to focus on that, it's going to be hard to do.
Mhm.
But over time and all that, you train yourself and you have an awareness of that, you'll start picking it up automatically.
Mhm.
But the whole thing about keeping them writing it down and staying with you. Okay, so write this number down, do this, and go through that whole thing where they're taking the notes the whole way. If you do that, you don't have to because you're engaging all of it.
All three.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later on, if you're doing so, that's a new agent can do that right away. And then later on, you'll start picking up on those things, and you'll know how to subconsciously almost be able to hit that main thing of them, where they're more feeling or more hearing or whatever. But the best thing to do is to do the same thing every time. Bring them into your world.
Mhm.
You know, where I do the same thing every time to the point where I can pretty much do it in my sleep. And it works for every person, no matter what.
Mhm.
That's the system you want to create, because then that's duplicatable, replicatable, and consistent. And it's also teachable. So you can bring on your apprentice. Here's exactly how we do it, exactly what happens. And it's designed to fit all of them.
And it works.
Right.
That's the thing. You know, how many new people come in, they don't know anything. Like me, I came into this business, you know, I sold industrial equipment for 25 years, no insurance experience. I had no idea what to say. I knew nothing about insurance, you know, but luckily I was with people. And Brandon, you know, were able to show me the way how to do this, you know, and there's a right way and a wrong way, and there's a lot of wrong ways, especially with Medicare.
You weren't the fastest to pick it up either.
No, it took me a little while. I mean, because we didn't really have, you know, I was a setter.
But let me go where I'm going. I'm not trying to push you on the defensive. What makes you great, and you're one of the most, if not the most successful agent we've ever had, you're the second. What makes you great is your diligence. You show up every day, you work hard, you really care, you pay attention to it. And once you get it, and it's over, you're going to do that for 10 years. You know, you're the best I've ever seen it. Showing up 7:30 every morning, leaving at 5:30, 6 o'clock every afternoon. We hardly ever talk because you're always on the phone. You're always doing something else. You're not BSing in the break room. You're not doing any of that. You're diligent here, day in, day out, every single day. You're not deviating from the things that work. You try a little thing, but it's inside the thing that you know works, but you're doing your thing. Day in, day out for decades, and I wish there was 100 more of you. But I mean, that's the thing. If anyone wants to have success in this business, that's the role model. You don't, the fast talkers, the people who are creative and innovative and all this other stuff, it's really hard for them, and they come and go.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who are diligent, the hair of the tortoise kind of the deal, and stick to what works, and don't try to reinvent the wheel every single day. Get a new stereo in the car. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? Put some new tread on that tire that makes it work in the snow. Don't reinvent the wheel, right?
Right.
Let the wheel roll, and that's what you're doing.
Well, that's the key. Just don't quit. A lot of people give up right before they're successful.
Right.
They go through all the hard work. They get frustrated, and they get bummed out and not make any money, whatever. but you have to stick with it, stick with the program and what works. And eventually, yeah, you will be successful. But you have to have a goal, have to have a plan, and it's got to be what you want to do. I like this because I like dealing with people, the seniors in particular, because they're a wealth of knowledge. I always learn from my clients. I respect the people that are older than me, and then we have great conversations. But I learn so much from them, and I can teach them a little things too, about Medicare. But it's really the stick to it, and that's just like Brandon said, that that's what builds success. You don't give up. Yeah, you're going to fail. Failing's okay. The failing's an opportunity to learn and correct your mistakes and build. We all like to win all the time, but that doesn't happen in normal life. I mean, if you're trying, you're gonna fail. Once you stop failing, it means you're not trying. You're not pushing yourself.
I think we reframe failure. It's, if Michael Jordan lost a basketball game at some point, or he missed a free throw, did he fail? Or is that part of the process? Right? If you look at it overall, the way for a champion to become a champion, it's not you make everything happen exactly like you want all the time. Yeah. It's a learning process. It's, if you look at it like, to become here, it's not gonna be a straight line of success. It's gonna be a lot of little circles of ups and downs and all that. And if you know that is the path, as long as you don't, but you got to keep trying.
Yeah.
And you don't say, okay, well now I need to make myself fail some because that's the path.
And I just saw Tom Brady. I mean, he makes some mistakes. They have bad games, and he sits down, he looks at the films, and he sees what went wrong.
That's the path.
And that's what's.
That's the path. There's no game that everyone did everything perfect. So the path is go out there, do your best, then analyze it, look at what you did right, what you did wrong. You've heard me say forever, if you make a sale, ask yourself what you did right to make that sale, and ask yourself what you did wrong and could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't make a sale, ask yourself what you did right, and ask yourself what you could have done better.
To use a Michael Jordan analogy, because I love The Last Dance. I don't know if you've watched The Last Dance about Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
That's awesome.
I haven't.
Yeah, it's 10 hours. It's some time, but it's probably the best sports documentary out there.
Okay.
People forget that Michael Jordan's Bulls won, back to back to back, all in the 90s, 91 through 93, and then 96, 97, 98. Yeah. But he was drafted in 84, and he was drafted to a very struggling Bulls organization. And he also got injured, and he lost a lot of playoff games to very competitive teams during that time. People don't talk about that.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
But to go back, he didn't see that as failure. He saw that as a lesson learned. He's like, here's like what Frank says. When you have this trajectory and you hit a roadblock, you look at what got you to that roadblock, and then you start it again. And then you realize when that roadblock is about to happen, you know how to overcome it because you make the changes to get that roadblock, and then you hit another roadblock.
But there's no way to know those changes you need to make until you hit that wall.
Exactly.
Right. And so hitting that wall is the path.
Yes.
Right.
It's not a failure. It's okay. I
maxed out what I can do here.
Right.
Boom.
Yep.
Okay, now I got to learn how to grow.
I got to go back and see what got me to that roadblock, to see that roadblock. And then now when I start over, I know, okay, this is where I need to make those changes so that roadblock is not there anymore. And it's going to get me further and further. And then roadblock after roadblock is going to get me to grow as, in this example, as a better agent. That's exactly what I did.
Personal experience, I remember the first day I walked onto the college baseball field. I was like, I'm not the best player here at all.
Yeah.
Well, even a baseball.
But by the way, I was probably one of the worst players, but I was at the batting cages till 9:30 every night.
Right.
I was there on the field an hour early every day, and even though I didn't make it, I had a shoulder injury. I was on the team, which I barely missed getting cut, but I was on the team. Because of that extra work I put in and playing the best baseball of my life before I got injured. If it hadn't been to go up and see these guys who are just so much better, I wouldn't have learned how to become the best I could have been.
And here's the last sports reference for you. In baseball, as a starting pitcher,
Michael Jordan, Todd Jr. College.
There we go. There we go. Here we go.
Kind of the same.
You can pitch a perfect game, which is no hits, no walks.
Yeah.
Can you start off an at-bat 3-0 count? Yeah. You might throw 150 pitches and 75 are balls.
Yeah.
Is each ball a failure? No. Because at the end of it, you're perfect, but your strike count isn't 150 to 0.
Right.
It's 100 and then whatever the numbers are. So there are things to where it's not necessarily a failure. It's a learning experience, and it's an opportunity for you to overcome adversity, is all it is.
And that concept, all these concepts that we're talking about, it's so hard for agents who may feel like they're struggling to have them see that. For them to say, I'm not doing well. I had a bad week. That must mean I'm a crappy agent. You know? It's like, no.
Or the leads are crappy or whatever excuse.
Crappy, you know, like, oh, it's been a poor production day because the leads are bad. No, that's not true. Because one, the agent that is killing it is pulling from the same lead source. You know? They are not talking to anybody different. They're talking to human beings. So to get that,
but it's that attitude that'll make that slump permanent, and it will make it true.
It'll make it true. You are going to manifest that truth because you believe that that's the truth.
My dad, I had 1 week in sales early, probably 1998. And normally we would make a couple hours of cold calls, and we had a team of telemarketers who were doing some fronting for us, and we might get a lead or two from that. And we go out in the afternoons and make sales. I was cold calling all day Monday. No appointments. All day Tuesday, no appointments. I keep coming to my dad's office like, Dad, I can't. I don't know what's going on. Okay, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Yes. Keep doing it. Okay, and I'll go back. Wednesday, nothing. Dad, I'm coming into his office every counter. I don't know, Brandon, this is a bad streak of luck, but if you're doing this, are you smiling? You're coming in and you came in and listened to me. So you're doing things right. I don't know. And this is a point where if you sold 5 in a week, like you're killing, right? Thursday morning, 10 o'clock, Dad, I still can't get anything. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Boom, I go in there between 10 and 12, and I get a couple of appointments. Boom, boom, boom. And long story short, Thursday afternoon and Friday, I sold 7.
There you go.
And that was the whole point of it was, and I think my best week ever at that point was 8, and I was normally around 4 and trying to get to 5 a week. But that was such a profound lesson in that. What was my dad's advice? Are you doing everything right? Then keep doing it. Make sure you're doing everything right and keep doing it. Because if you start believing that there's outside forces that don't work and all that. By the way, I have my dad who was no spring chicken in the business and had taught and we're having success and other people were having success. He knew what those steps were. It wasn't trying to just figure it out. But if you make sure you're always doing the right thing and keep doing it, the numbers will work themselves out.
I think as
long as you don't make it permanent with negative thinking.
To piggyback off of you here, kind of two things, and one thing that you bring up all the time as well too. You went looking for help from somebody you knew was successful at what you were doing. So many people, when they get into slumps, when they get into ruts, what they'll do is they'll say, "What's the quick trick that I can learn to turn this into a sale? What can I do?" They'll go look at anywhere else except maybe the person beside them and ask them, "Hey, can you listen to that call? Like, you hear me, what am I saying wrong? Like what's going on?" People are so afraid nowadays just to ask for help, but you really need to find somebody that you know that's better than you. Because if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room, buddy. You're not in the right one.
You got to be coachable.
You got to be. Yeah.
You walked in.
But
I just like to say, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. You know, it's what goes on between your two ears, you know, and that's, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you have to, you know, and it's not easy to say, hey, you know what, I really need help here, you know, and you have to humble yourself a little bit and accept, you know, the constructive criticism. And
If you
to help
can't do that,
grow.
if you don't come in here, what's the old saying? We're born in this world covered in blood, kicking, screaming, and crying, and then it gets worse.
I used to hear the saying, I had in-laws, you know, life sucks and then you die. You know, I'm like,
no, but like the point is, you have to learn that by the nature of business is scarcity. You don't have what it takes. You don't have a line of people out the door. You have to be hungry, and you have to align yourself to the principles of the universe at work, right? And that's not natural. It's nothing else. It's like I don't know. You're going out trying to learn basketball, and a coach is like, okay, I've been coaching basketball. Here's how you shoot. Here's how it rolls off your finger, and all this other stuff. Here's how you dribble. Like, no, I know how to dribble. I mean, that's a childish thing to do, to not accept that. Like, you want to, there's an infinite ability to get better. And so, and the successful people don't want to come in and say, hey, I know everything, I'm the best. They start out in humility. Because the more I learn, the more success I have, the more I realize there's so much I don't know and haven't been. And really, I start seeing how many more holes in me that there are that need to be filled. The more successful I get. And that's the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. The more successful you get, the more successful you realize you aren't. I'm like 20 stages above now where I ever thought I would be, or my initial goals. And I'm like, man, I'm really a nobody. You know, first time you make $100,000 a year, you're like, yes, I make up. This isn't very much. Wow. And then, you know, like, and everyone who makes it, whether it's $1 million, 10 million, whatever, like, there's a whole lot more out there, and there's a whole lot more. I'm able to do certain things, but there's a whole lot more I could be doing if I became a little more, you know, all that. So you see those holes in you more. And I think that's the whole game of life. I think you're out of business, sales, entrepreneurship, everything. I think the biggest thing for me is not what I've achieved or bought or anything like that. It's who I've become. It's that spiritual journey that you take. And it's like you say, you keep hitting these walls and all that, and it shows you who you are. And then that's your goal. That's your opportunity to improve and get better. And so why would anyone ever retire? Is my point, because if life is a spiritual journey, which I believe it's, you know, God put us here for a reason to work out something and to evolve through helping others is what I believe. But you know, let God retire you, but don't retire, because the activity of being alive, and I promise you, the people who retire, it's not all that great. There's what you can watch soap operas all you want, and maybe take a few more trips or whatever. You know, you can get to a point where you can do those things, but for the most part, there's nothing more than this. Everything about life, you get a yacht, I got a yacht. Okay, big deal. It's a pain in the ass. It's what it is. It really is. It's like, please, someone buy my yacht.
Boats
please.
are terrible. Don't ever buy a boat.
Some guy sunk his boat last week.
I didn't sunk. My dad sunk it.
But let me finish this. Is all of that stuff doesn't matter. If you realize that sale that you're making, that changing of someone's life you're doing on the phone is as good as it gets. This conversation we're having right now is as good as it gets. We have our health. We have aligned goals. There's people watching us on the internet. Hopefully more. Please share the links. All that. There is nothing more than this in life. And this is the beauty. This is what it is. If you're becoming something.
I've always focused on one thing, is that be of value. Whatever you do, be of value to others, be of value to the people you work for. Make yourself of value, you know, to where, and that expands the horizons. You know, it's not about you. You can't be selfish and expect to grow. You know, you have to be of value, whatever it is, even in retirement. You know, I mean, there's a whole multitude of things, but as long as you're of value to society, you will expand. It's inevitable. It's the law of the universe, you know. And if that's your focus, you will succeed no matter what you do.
Right.
Whether it's sales or anything, you make yourself a value. You're going to grow and flourish.
Well, people give up on life when they stop feeling valuable, when they stop feeling they have worth to others, and they start feeling that's negative. That's when people actually die, because most of the time because they give up.
They stop moving.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, you hear the story of someone who like shouldn't be alive and for 6 months, and then their daughter came in from overseas and got to tell them something, and then boom. You know, like there is that will to live. There's that something to live for and all of that. But the more I've learned is the more like, yeah, man, if you have an ability to make a living, to become something better yourself, and the way you do that is through cold calling, through making sales, through getting hung up on, through whatever. And you're leaving people better off than you are, and you're bringing people along with you. That's what the insurance business is great, because it makes you better and all that. But you're bringing people along with you. You're generating positive stuff for everybody and all that. There's nothing better. When tragedy strikes, I recently had a big tragedy. It's like, oh, well, this is going to be a big moment where I talk about it. It's like, no, you know what? Life is just life. You know, the same things that I was going to do before tragedy struck is the same things I have to do after. It's not the big moment on the movie and all that, man. And you start realizing, whoa, what was the movie As Good as It Gets? When that big famous line, Jack Nicholson, just there at the diner and all that, and he goes, "What if this is as good as it gets?"
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that it was true. Everyone should realize, man.
Yeah, you're always going to have things.
Life is life.
You know, I mean, if things go smooth, and sometimes people think, oh, it's been smooth for way too long. I know shoe's going to drop any minute.
That's me.
You know, I mean, things are going good for me a couple months ago, and I got hit by a tornado, and I'm like, oh, wow. You know, it snaps things back into reality. It's like, okay, this is valuable to hear, and all this junk, it's not so much valuable. And yeah, you know, we'll get.
But after all that, then it's like, wow, I get to go back to my job. I get to talk to people. I get to help people out.
I got hurt. Everything's fine, but we're always going to have those things thrown at us in life. You know, those little hiccups, and you got to learn how to get through them. And you know, you can't get too stressed out about it.
I already forgot you got hit by a tornado. Was that 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
It was in May. Yeah, end of May 23rd, I think. And
oh, that's a month ago.
Yeah.
Was it? I feel like it's been longer than that.
I know it feels like it's been longer. Well, we got Humpty Dumpty put back together, except for my truck. I'm still waiting for my show up. But anyway, you know, we're always going to have stuff like that, you know, and some people, it destroys them, you know, it's like the end of the world, you know, but it's not.
What would you say grounds you in those moments? Because I think it's important. People have success. They find a way to, they're almost unaffected by that. Like, you can take my house away, I'll find a place to live, and I'm still going to be happy and good. And there's other people who, gosh, they burn their lunch, and like the end of the world has happened and all that. I mean, you obviously have a deeper foundation, something like that. What would you say? What would you attribute that to? The ability to be, you know, the calm of the storm, no matter what happens in life, that you're grounded and unaffected.
Well, yeah, I've got a very deep faith, first of all. So, you know, I always rely back on that. And I don't look at stuff. I had a very wise man tell me once, a good friend of mine, he said, you know, Brad, all that stuff is like a hot poker. You don't realize how much it's burning you till you get rid of it. You know, and it's true, you know, accumulation, all this junk. And it's like, I had a point in my life, I had a bunch of stuff, and a friend of mine said, you know, my nephew, they lost everything. They didn't have insurance. I said, Ben, I've got all this. I can outfit their house. I've got a couch. I got a microwave. I got a kitchen table. I've also got a truck because I was moving at the same time. I'll take it over there. And I felt so good after that because, you know, yeah, I could have sold the stuff, but yeah, it's worth more, you know, with what I did that way, you know. I learned a lot from that experience, so yeah, I mean,
You're talking about the principle, everything you own ends up owning you.
yeah,
And that's so true.
yeah, you can't take it with you,
Finally started, well, it's not only that, it's like, I reframed something before because we started accumulating all kinds of stuff. Every time you get a kid, you like all of a sudden you got 200 toys. Like, because every time you go, you get one, like all that. So I reframed it in my mind. When I saw something that was cool, I said, okay, do I want to take care of this thing? Instead of do I want it, do I want to buy it? It's like, no, it's cute. Okay, I'll look at it and I'll leave. Right?
Yeah.
Like, but if you look at it, it's like, okay, so here's this new plant over in the corner. Do I want to take care of this? Yes, because it's pretty and it just sits there and it's not a whole lot of work. But other things that are going to accumulate in your house and all that. But yeah, you're talking about, first of all, your faith. And your faith also, keeps you unattached to things. And it seems to me like what you value most is your relationship with others and the work that you do and knowing who you are in the world, with your clients, with your coworkers, all of that. You take that away, that's going to be a lot harder and some stuff, right?
Absolutely. We're all in this together.
And no one's going to take your faith away.
No, that's the foundation, the rock, that really, not to get, religious, philosophical or anything, but you need to have a foundation spiritually, to fall back on. You need to know who you are, number one. You need to believe in a higher power, whatever it is. But, the buck doesn't stop with you. I mean, and we're all together in this thing. We're all connected. What we do affects somebody else somehow, some way. And if you make yourself a value and you're contributing to society, you can say, well, when you look at the human body, you have cells that keep us alive, but then you can have cancer, like parasites, that feed off of that. I mean, in society, do you want to be the cancer that just, takes everything and doesn't give back? Or do you want to be the person that is a value to the rest of society and makes other people's lives better?
And by the way, that I believe that, I know you're a lot into health and stuff like this, the metaphysics of that, when you're doing those things, they create health in your own cells.
Absolutely.
And you're less likely to get sick and have cancer and all those things if you're not. If you have a purpose-driven life and you are having those good emotions and all that. So,
you got to forgive people. You can't harbor negative emotions about other people. All those things, anger, worry, for people that can't forgive other people, they get sick. You're making yourself sick. You're focusing on the wrong things in your mind. It's like a negative cloud that's going to just keep perpetuating the rest of your life. You have to get rid of that.
Yeah, they're actually showing that a lot of injuries are just stored emotions. And I don't know if you've gotten into that. I had spontaneous healing on one of my shoulders one time because of that. Because they're going off into a whole other realm. People who don't understand it think you're crazy, but you actually unprocessed emotions, they store it into different parts of their body. So if you have lower back pain, it could be certain kinds of unresolved issues and those things. And then I don't understand it enough to really represent it well, but I do know what happened to me on my shoulder. Maybe I'll get into it another time, but yeah, somehow you can have spontaneous healing just by healing the mind and the emotions.
Absolutely.
And then that part of your body that kind of thing is stored in releases in some weird way and happens. And I've experienced it myself. I'm gonna stay in my realm of expertise on this. But I mean, beyond financial health, physical health, and all of that does happen by having the right purpose and being of service to other people.
Yeah,
it gives you spiritual health. You go home feeling good about yourself. Whatever. So stay in the struggle, because that's how you get better over time. But where you're at, which I think most people would love to be in a situation like yours, is that you are financially sound, successful, but you put your head on the pillow every night knowing you love what you do, you love your family, you love your customers and your coworkers, and in a large sense, you've made it. You haven't arrived, but you've made it, right?
Still climb,
Still got a long way to go.
But it's a journey. You might slide back a little bit, but you get right back on it. Yeah, life is really it's interesting.
Any final thoughts, Jacob? Or
I mean, I was about to lift my hands up with both of y'all talking like this over here. You got me going. No, I think that's. I mean, we're a little bit over an hour too, but there's some. If you don't get something out of this, that is going to help you not only this afternoon, but really for the rest of your life, career. You ain't paying too much attention, because there are snippets in here that go way beyond insurance. It's human beings. And that's kind of what we talked about yesterday too. And that's what I want to leave everybody with here is this afternoon, I want you to hug somebody, make a new friend, but also treat every human that you interact with as a human. You are not better than them. You are not worse than them. They are a brother or a sister to us. And to be successful to this point, treat everybody as a human. It's the best advice you can have. So,
Amen.
I think that, amen, preach. So I think that's it. Brandon, you got anything?
no, just hope a lot of people watch this. I think it was a great conversation. The fact that we went from where it went to where it ended, I think it was great, because the context, you start out talking about sales and persuasion and the reasons we do these things, and the ins and outs, the techniques, and that's the sizzle that everyone kind of wants to look at, like what's the technique and the trick. And in the end, it comes out to spiritually who you are and what the deeper meaning of life is. If you solve that part at the front, or if you're on your, and solving it means you're on your path to solving that, to figuring it out, learning it, then the sales and persuasion and all that just comes naturally as part of that. If you are the right person, and like what we talked about, where you were able to be strong with your client, it's because you had done the spiritual work first, and you did love that person, and you had connected with them correctly from a deep, sincere place. That gave you the ability to say, "Be quiet, let's go." Right?
Yeah.
And so all of this together, I mean, this has probably been a conversation people should watch 3 or 4 times, I think, especially if you're doing sales. Watch this 3 or 4 times, get the whole picture of it. And you'll see why someone like Brad has thousands and thousands of clients, and why you have over 1,000 now and are doing so well in just a couple of years. And, why that this is the core roots of who you have to become to attract that success. Success is not something you go out and grab and fight and conquer. It's something you become. And then once you become it, there's a small lag, but then those fruits of success come to you. It's kind of the way the world works. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So, all right, we got some sales to make. So be sure. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Check out Insure Sales, and on Insure Sales, Insure Link. Make yourself a profile. Me and Brandon were actually active in it this morning. We were back and forth posting in there. I posted a question. He posted a really cool answer. So check that out and join us here tomorrow. And in the meantime, tell somebody you love them. Good luck.
Happy selling. God bless.